Okay, here we go. Here we go. Hey guys, Sidney Diongzon here. If you're brand new to the channel, I'm a filmmaker and photographer, and I create a lot of filmmaking and storytelling tips and tricks, tutorials, camera gear reviews, as well as some fun vlogs. And so if you want to join this community of awesome storytellers helping each other out, then hit that subscribe button and notification bell right over there, somewhere there, unless they moved it over here. But chances are it's gonna be right over there. Today, we're gonna check out PolarPro's brand new Quartzline ND filters. So before we get into this particular product, let's talk about why ND filters are important to filmmakers and photographers. ND filters, or neutral density filters, are meant to cut down the exposure of your shot while keeping a low aperture. Shooting with a low aperture can have your subject focus on the foreground while the background is all blurry, or also known as bokeh. And so if you want to achieve that cinematic look while shooting outdoors, out in the bright sun, you can achieve that look by using ND filters while keeping a low aperture. Otherwise, you'll have to crank up your aperture so high that everything's in focus, or even worse, crank up your shutter speed where everything is just kind of staticky. The whole point of using ND filters is to, yes, cut down on your exposure, but also allowing for motion blur to naturally flow in your scene. So in theory, ND filters are great, but there are a bunch of ND filters out there, a lot of cheap brands, a lot of mid-price brands, and a lot of expensive brands. I will say from experience that whenever I've used cheaper ND filters, they would often end up in color fringing or color casting, or even worse, softness in your photos and videos. And if you're shooting for a client, that's not okay. I mean, think about it. You invest in a very expensive camera, you buy an expensive lens, but you decide to opt for the cheaper ND filter, and when you shoot with it and you see the end results, you're expecting a really high quality image, but you're left so sad and disappointed because the images are so soft and it's just fringing and the color's not accurate, and you're like, why? Why did I do this? Why? Why? One, it's not your fault. It's okay, you are not alone. Two, it's not your camera's fault or the lens fault, but that cheap filter you decided to use. Sorry, whew, I get a little, And of course you can argue that I can fix it in post, I can color correct it, I can sharpen it. Sure, you can do that, it's gonna take a little bit more of your time, but nothing is gonna beat a high quality image coming straight out of the camera and then enhancing it even more in post. Enhancing it more in post. Man, I cannot speak. And of course there are different ND filters out there. I mean, you have your standard ND filters that have different numbers associated with the number of stops that it cuts down. And then you have the variable ND filters, which are the filters that you twist, and the more you twist, the darker your scene's gonna look. Variable ND filters are great, but one of the biggest drawbacks is that if you decide to twist the ND filter too much, then you're going to see an X vignetting on the corners, which looks kind of weird. Regardless, ND filters, or any filters for that matter, are dependent on how good the glass is, which is why I'm very intrigued to try out this new Quartzline from PolarPro. So based out of PolarPro's website, this is what they say about their new Quartzline ND filters. It is fused quartz glass element, which resolves up to 100 megapixel sensors. That probably means that the quality of the glass is so high that you won't see any loss of quality when you're using high megapixel cameras like the Hasselblad medium format cameras, or even the Sony a7R III, which has a 42 megapixel sensor in it. It has a brass frame, which is good for smooth threading and increased durability. I can see that. It has perfect color neutrality, a new coating process for zero color shift. That in itself is huge. I mean, if this thing doesn't produce any color casting, any color fringing, or even softness, then this might be the go-to filter for us filmmakers. It has 16 coating layers, anti-scratch, anti-oil, hydrophobic coatings. And lastly, it has a lifetime warranty built for a lifetime of adventures. Before we go out and shoot, let's go ahead and check out the filter itself and put it through some series of tests. Okay, you've passed that test, but... Okay. Well, I got one more test, you see. What, you think I can't break you? Oh, I'm gonna break you. Oh, I'm gonna break you so good. What are you made of? That was actually pretty cool and pretty impressive, but I'm more of a results kind of guy, and so let's take this filter, go outside, take a couple of test shots, and see what this thing can do. All right, here we go. we're back. I gotta say, this is some of the best glass I've ever used. Ever. I mean, the fact that it's so durable, well, first of all, it just looks amazing. I mean, it's pretty bamfed with the brass and the black. I mean, aesthetically, it's probably the most beautiful ND filter I've ever seen in my life. The quality of it is absolutely superb. I mean, I was actually surprised by this. I didn't really see any color casting or fringing. I mean, let's take a look at the footage. I mean, here's the original without the ND filter, and now here's the shot with the ND filter. Pretty darn impressive. One of my favorite things about the ND filter with the built-in polarizer is that when you twist the filter, you actually turn on the polarizer. And what polarizers do is that they reduce reflections in waters and windows. They help darken skies by bringing in those deep blues. So having a polarizer built in on top of your ND filter is not only practical, but very, very convenient. This thing is durable. I mean, I've dropped this guy a couple of times on purpose just to see if there would leave any scratches or marks, but there hasn't been any on the glass or even on the brass ring on the outside. It's like built like a tank. So the only downside to these filters is the price. I mean, the bigger your filter thread is, the higher the price will be, but in all honesty, you get what you pay for. Sure, you can go on Amazon, pay like 20 bucks for a cheap ND filter, but when you look at your end result, there's going to be a notable difference between using that cheap $20 lens versus using a high quality product like this. And everything that I'm saying is my opinion, my truthful opinion. PolarPro did not pay me to say any of this stuff. They just sent this guy over for me to review, and these are my honest opinions. But in all honesty, the glass on this filter is absolutely superb, and I'm really surprised at the quality this thing produces. So anyway, there's that. If you guys are interested in this product, then go ahead and check out the link in the description below. Also, go ahead and follow PolarPro. They're doing amazing things on their YouTube and Instagram, so check them out. Another video in the can. All right, gotta go. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.